The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed during this or any broadcast belong solely to our guests or our hosts. These broadcasts do not represent or reflect the views of their employers, sponsors, or affiliated organizations.
Welcome to the Flipboard EDU podcast with your host, William Jeffrey, where we collaborate, communicate, and educate with the greatest educators in the world on Flipboard. Let's start the show.
Welcome back, Flipboard fam. It's your favorite coach, Coach Jeffrey, Dr. Michael Milstead, and Stacy Boudry on a break. And I have some wonderful guests here with me. I'm here with the Flipboard community. And I like to call them the Flipboard fam because they welcome me in with open arms. Janet, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Okay, I'm Janet Speyer. I'm a partner at Hot Ice Media. I live in Los Angeles. We run a small business that markets to Whole Foods and organic brands. I've been using Flipboard since 2012, mostly for my clients. And then I expanded and I was invited to teach guest classes at different universities and schools. And I've worked with different people on Flipboard magazines and promoting Flipboard. I consider myself an independent Flipboard marketer because I want to spread the word about Flipboard in the world. I want it to be very successful. I believe that every child should have a Flipboard, no matter how old he is, no matter where he lives. And that's my ambition.
Yeah, you know, we're going to come back to that, Janet, because we go back and forth on that one. And next I have Michael. Michael, say your last name for me.
Toothman.
Michael Toothman. Michael, you are a welcome guest as well. Can you give us a little bit of insight on who you are, sir?
Yes, I'm Michael P. Toothman, PMP. I'm an educator at the University of California at Riverside, where I teach predominantly project management, project leadership, communication classes. I also have a consulting company, education consulting company called Project Driven. I'm a fairly new convert to Flip, and I've been able to use this in my classes to provide much more opportunities for my students to learn. And they've been a fantastic augmentation to what I'm doing and trying to make happen for my students, even during the pandemic. And I'm looking forward to using this after these times are over.
And last but not least, we have my homegirl. I always give him a title. A good coach got to nickname somebody. My homegirl, Terry Porter. Terry, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Howdy. I'm Terry. I'm in the Dallas, Texas area, and I am a Flipboard addict. I've been using Flipboard since 2011 when I heard about it on a podcast, and I've been doing Flipboard magazine since 2013. Flipboard.
Excellent. And so I called you my homegirl simply because not only are you a fellow Texan, but I got to ride home halfway, right?
There you go.
Yeah. Terry, I'm going to start off. This first question goes to you, and I'll cycle back to everyone. Terry, why Flipboard?
It's an amazing platform. It's free, awesome resource for so many things. It's the best news reader out there by far. It's an awesome app, and everybody should have it on their phone, on their iPad, on their desktop. It's amazing.
Thank you. Michael, you are an educator. I heard you say earlier in the broadcast that you're looking forward to using it with your students. I know you teach project management and different complex ideas with Flipboard. How does it support you in your job?
Well, the nature of my classes is they're accelerated. My quarter is 8 weeks long. And because of that, I can only cram so much content into my class. However, Flipboard lets me do two things that do them very well. Number one, I can expand upon the material that I teach in class by using a Flipboard. If students are interested in those concepts that I discussed the night before, or they want to delve deeper into it, they can go through the Flipboard magazine and find an increasing array of resources. Indeed, I can actually set up a choose your own adventure. So if they're wanting to learn more about personal leadership, they can go this direction. If they want to look more into, authenticity and how to be an effective leader, they could go this direction. And I could do that with my project management classes as well. Also, when I look at the cracks in my courses, areas that I don't cover enough or I cover insufficiently during that 8-week window that I have, I can fill in the gaps with an appropriate Flipboard.
That is a excellent way to use it to reach all learners in your classroom. And I'm going to come back to how you're using it. I want to ask Janet, you are in the business sector. You are not a teacher by trade. You're not an educator per se. Why are you using Flipboard in the manner in which you do? And why are you so passionate about educating people on Flipboard?
For branding, for publications, for anything you do, it's like what you said, it's a Swiss Army knife. So if you're branding a product or you're launching a product, I mean, it's like the best resource because Facebook is very limited and Twitter. I mean, I don't want to knock anyone else's brand, but in Flipboard, you can actually tell the whole brand story from finance annual reports all the way to a lookbook, a store. You can put a mall on Flipboard. That's what I tell my clients. I say, give me 10 products, we'll create a store for you. We'll link it to different places, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And what most of them appreciate is that you can, it's wow. You go to a trade show, you're standing in the booth, and you have a Flipboard. It's a lot more engaging than follow us on Twitter. And not that you can't use Twitter, because Twitter works really, really well. And that's why I don't want to say too many things about the other apps, because they all engage with Flipboard, into Flipboard. And you can it just expands into everything. So when I saw that and I started using it for brands, and I started using it for publications, for blogs, for bloggers, for influencers, for travel planning, and all different industries, I thought, why not? And I know it's not to have a kid do it, but teach a kid or use a Flipboard to teach a kid, why not? And so I realized at the time that Flipboard was doing Flip EDU. And then I sort of jumped on the bandwagon and I started talking to my friends that were teachers and asking if I could come into their schools and do guest speaking. And I did a couple with Anna Marie at Northridge and in different places. Not a lot, but just enough. And I've been sort of telling professors to get on Flipboard because I think it's going to help them educate children. It's really very powerful. Like you said, it's a Swiss Army knife. So why just use one knife when you can use the whole knife?
Man, you look at you with your brand ambassador self. That's good. You said, again, how did you got started with Flipboard on your own volition? Did anybody show it to you, or how did you actually get started?
Well, I come from a graphic design background. So for many, many years, I've worked with different clients, some very large, like I've worked with Disney, HBO, BET Channel, Playboy, all these clients, Corona, not the virus, the beer.
Yeah.
Used to very accustomed to working with magazines and publications and doing advertisements. I'm also very accustomed to working with TV commercials. When I took a look at Flipboard, it sort of answered a question that, my clients were having. They were having this anxiety because they couldn't handle the social media. And we're talking in 2005, 2007, this transition was, causing a lot of grief. Okay, because they could not tell the full story. But then when Flipboard came about in 2010, to me, creating a magazine was pretty intuitive. It was quite easy. I did my first. Then I discovered it on a Twitter chat, actually called Mobile Chat. Mm-hmm. And I started doing my own magazines. And then I met Terry, and she was running a group with several other people that were also Flipboard fans. And I joined that group, and that's how I met the crew at Flipboard, and I met Terry and so many other people that are in our group today.
Yes.
And it progressed from there.
So, Michael, who initiated you into the Flipboard family?
Janet actually did. Janet, months ago, joined my Facebook group called Amplifier, which has nothing to do with Flipboard whatsoever, but everything to do about personal branding. And she was talking about her interest in Flipboard and everything she was doing with Flipboard. And I'm like, what's Flipboard? She looks, she just looked like your typical skater. And then she explained it to me, right?
Yeah.
And I started looking at it and thought, this is brilliant. And this is a brilliant way that I can engage my students on a completely different level.
Terry, how did you get involved with Flipboard? I think you may have answered that.
Like I said, I heard about it on a podcast. I got an iPad in 2011, and I went looking for some information about what app should I have on my iPad. And there was this podcast called iPad Today. And because Flipboard had been Apple's App of the Year for 2010, they were talking about it. And that sounded good. And they kept coming back to talking about Flipboard over and over again over the next few months. They would say, and don't forget Flipboard this and Flipboard that. And so that's really how I got into, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to use it. And then when magazines came along in 2013, I thought, oh, I'm curating some content in other ways on other sites like Flickr, where I'm collecting certain pictures and things like that. I can take that content and put it into my own magazine and share that out. And so that was really the start of the rest of the Flipboard experience, which is not only reading and news and articles and all that, but also curating your own content and all the magazines that have been created ever since.
Gotcha. So you ladies are the backbone of the group. There's a huge community that you guys are trying to get going. Terry, I'm going to say that you helped suck me in. I got pulled in. I was introduced by a teacher by the name of Lisa Foyle. She was a chemistry teacher that taught like right around the corner from me. And one day she was about to be out and she showed me her Flipboard for a chemistry class. So that's how I got inducted into it. And then from there I took off, and then we did a magazine together, Terry, the Ugly Christmas Sweater magazine, right? And so that's how we did it.
That was fun.
Yeah. How did this turn for education? For what purpose of education? If I'm a brand new teacher and I'm looking for how to engage my students, especially in this COVID-19 era, how could you convince me that this is the right tool? And I'm going to ask Terry that first.
Okay. Well, I'm not a teacher, but I did raise a teacher. My daughter teaches high school English. And for her, I wanted the ability to expand out visually some of the things, the concepts she's teaching. So, for example, she's teaching Macbeth, and most of these kids have never been to Scotland. They have no idea what the Highlands look like, or the hills, or the lakes, or any of that, loch, however they say that. And so, to me, Flipboard is a way to take the content that you're teaching and expand on it visually. You can put the, say, note on the chalkboard that says, here's a Flipboard magazine about Scotland, and they can go look at it and get some more ideas when they talk about the castle. Here's what the castle looks like, that kind of thing. So it's just a way of taking the regular educational curriculum, which is already awesome, and giving them some expanded visuals via Flipboard.
Michael, what about you?
I think to describe it, I use a term I used when I was in the military. It's a force multiplier. I can only see my students for so long, and a lot of times they come to class, they just got off from work, and they're barely there. But with this force multiplier of a Flipboard magazine, on their own time, when their brain is fresh and learning in their own style, their own manner, they can go through and look at the content and remember back certain things that I said, expand on principles I discussed. It's just a great way to implement the science of learning and help my students to grasp it the best way they can through a multimedia presentation.
Janet, I'm going to ask that same question to you too.
It's a perfect virtual tour of anything. So you can teach, in my opinion, anything on Flipboard. You want to teach geography. Well, that's the easiest, You just put all the countries, and then you can encourage the kids to curate with the teacher and supervised by the teacher to experience the whole world. You want to teach history. It's very visual. It's a lot easier for a child to learn something that they can see rather than just words. And it's also my experience in the classroom. I was not a very good student, and I'm very visual. So it was hard for me to listen to the teacher because my mind would start wandering into virtual land or whatever. So with a Flipboard, that you can engage. It's also interactive, right? Mm-hmm. So you can engage, you can create, you can co-curate with the children, and you will learn. You feel like you're in it, you're experiencing it. So like Terry was saying, you can go to Scotland, or Michael was saying it's a live experience on project management. So there's so many applications that make it easy for children to learn.
So y'all know I'm a Flipboard and brand ambassador, unofficial. They haven't made me official. I don't know if any of us are official, but we all really like it. We all really like it. What is your vision for this group? Michael, I'm just going to call you out on this one. For the group that you spend Thursdays, we all talk about how to get it in education. What is your vision for this group?
To increase it in size, of course, but also to get the best practices that I could teach other teachers. And, education is a slow-moving, monolithic kind of industry. People hold on tightly to how they've done things, back since the Kennedy administration. I want to be able to evangelize and help new teachers to take those first footsteps toward making this happen for their own students. So what I see is us being more influential, being able to be, leaders for other educators and even people in private industry.
Thank you. And Terry, you normally write our flip tips. As a matter of fact, the idea flip tips came from you. Where do you want to see this group?
I definitely also want to see more awareness of what Flipboard can do for teachers, and the Flip EDU initiative is a fabulous thing. They have a whole magazine of all kinds of educational magazines that teachers can use. If you're teaching a science class on volcanoes, Janet has done a magazine on volcanoes, and you could use that magazine. So there's so many resources out there on Flipboard for teachers that are great. And the other thing is, we know teachers are busy. We want to help teachers flip we have a challenge called Help a Teacher Flip, where we can create a magazine. If a magazine will be useful to them, then let these Flipboard curators come up with something that would help you out. So more awareness about Flipboard in general, more awareness about Flip EDU, and more awareness of what the community can do for teachers.
Janet.
Yeah, I'd like to see the group, of course, grow, but I'd like it to be a working group of people that can find it as a resource. So we can discuss, trouble we may have, things that need to be fixed. We have a huge benefit of having members of the Flipboard team on with us that are actually listening to us and paying us attention, which I think is amazing.
Yes.
And I also want to move this into a charitable contribution. I'd like to see Flipboard and all of us do more to help children, to help teachers, especially in more disadvantaged neighborhoods. That's always been my dream. I don't know if it will come true, but I'm sure going to try. And I'd like to obviously recruit more people and get more people on board, teach them about Flipboard and get them excited about Flipboard, because if you feel good about something, you'll remember it. If it's just something, it's like no big deal. But if you feel like, wow, this is really good, and it feels good to create your first magazine and to share it, and people are helping you. And I also would like to have a group of teachers creating group magazines that will actually do something and help people, like teachers that, like Terry said, are very busy. And then they can use them as a guide for their classrooms. So it could replace the book, for example, those books that cost so much money to students. A Flipboard magazine could be an alternative. And it changes, the atlas changes, the geography changes. Suddenly there's an independent country. Well, there's a whole Flipboard about that new country. So it's dynamic, it changes, it's interactive. So there's a lot of possibilities.
Welcome to Flip Tips. Today's Flip Tip is how to get started with Flipboard. Very simple. I want to thank Jeanette Spire and Terry Porter for coming up with our Flip Tips for today. The first thing you want to do is download the app for your Android or iOS device. Second thing you want to do is you want to create an account. Make sure you add a picture and complete your bio. Third thing you want to do is you want to follow topics. There are at least 34,000 topics that you can follow. Next thing you want to do is build your magazine. Navigate to the bottom of your profile icon and then select the collection options. Give your magazine a title and you've built your first magazine. I want to give a huge shout out for Terry Porter and Jeanette Spire on giving us today's Flip Tips. Flipboard fam, thank you for coming out and being a part of this episode. I would like to give a special thanks to Janet Spire, Terry Porter, and Michael Toothman, again, for taking time out of their week to talk to us about Flipboard. If you are new to Flipboard and you want to learn more about it, connect with these people because they are inviting. They really support education and they really want to see students succeed. If you also need help, reach out to me too, because I'm willing to help as well. Also, share this podcast with friends as we try to really delve into education and how to improve it by using tools like Flipboard. Stay tuned next week. We will have my good friend, Shelly Terrell, and she will talk with us about issues in education.
Flipboard is a great way to collect articles for classes, show off your school and school spirit, and share expertise with peers.